And so this is where it comes from. So when I started to flesh the notion of dysfunctional schools, people were saying, well, now we know about it, so how do we find a solution? And unlike what Jonathan is often blamed for coming up with a problem and not a solution, I really jumped into it. And I visited about 100, over 100 dysfunctional schools, and all I saw was how not to do things. And at that point, the first notion of this particular model jumped up to say, when I look around me, there's absolutely no planning. So if you come to anything, no matter who you are, and you haven't planned, you're not giving yourself the opportunity to be ready. And so part of those components I'm certainly going to talk about. So first of all, the methodology is most probably the most important part for me. Methodology is not about what you do, is how you do it. And I want to reflect on a point someone is saying, what is working. I believe what is working is about what you come with and what you invest in the process and what people receive. And so it's not about the stuff that you be right about. It's about the connection that you make first. And so so the methodology, 5 phases. 1, create ownership. Meaning, if people are not there and committed to their cause, then there's no, you can't actually make a difference. And so that's one of the kind of first issue that I clarify with the schools. I can only help schools to change. I can't make them change. And once they agree and decide that they really want to make a difference, I will be there. But I just can't make you change. So unless you give me the legislative authority. And what is important also about this project is, there's a difference between making people change through legislative power and authority, and then making people change through influence and excitement and commitment and integrity. Those are 2 different things. The one is quickly you can command from people change. The other one is you need to excite them. You need to convince them you know what you're talking about. The second, so in that ownership, there are 5 key principles that I'm going to share with you, and that's the core of it. If schools don't adopt that, it's very little that I can do, and I move on with other schools who are prepared to work with. We'll quickly talk about the 8 school readiness, then I'm going to talk about curriculum management. I believe curriculum management is most probably the holy grail of our education system. And that's where it connects with, and I make a clear distinction between curriculum management and subject management. South Africa is confusing those 2. Curriculum management is a relationship of work between the HOD and the principal, whilst subject management is the relationship between the HOD and the teachers. Subject management would be all of those specific things to do with maths and science. Curriculum management has got to do with everything, the generic things around all the subjects that needs to be managed. And I hope to clarify that to you, that the work that I do is not intended for schools to get better matric results. That's not what I'm aiming. I'm aiming at to stabilize our schools so that, and this is the promise that I make. I make the promise that you work with me for 3 years, no learner will fail in your school. And when I started to talk about it, people used to fall from their chairs. Because the notion of everyone passed as an understanding and a belief does not exist in black education. Doesn't exist in black education. We were placed in our heads, the normal distribution curve, you all know about it, that we were, and by the way, the normal distribution curve, it's not even an educational theory. It's an economic social science theory. And the social science is all about sharing. Economic is a choice. And so they brought in that theory into educational training. So the school methodology is about deep change. I'm not going to go through all of it, but that's where the work we do becomes so important. it takes far longer to convince people how important it is to change. But once they get it, you can ask them to go and sit on the roof of the school, and they will ask you how long should they sit there. But if they constantly doubt, and so in the project that I work with, every time for the first 2 or 3 months, I need to convince the principals why should they sacrifice their time to work with me. In terms of deep change, there are 2 main components or kind of change in education. The one is called school improvement, and the other one is called what I call school turnaround. They're not the same, they're not slippery words. I happen to can't spell improvement, that's why I wrote down turnaround. It's not. Conceptually is fundamentally different. School improvement is assuming that you're doing the right thing. And so it's often about doing things, do more of what you're doing and doing it better. School turnaround in essence is saying we're not doing the right thing. Let's look at what we're doing. And so if a teacher is teaching badly for 5 days in a week and then organize a Saturday class, not going to make a difference. Well, the learners will express it themselves by not coming to that Saturday class, because they know they're not getting something during the week. And so we are overtly caught up in improvement instead of turnaround.